Welcome to the City of Kyle's Dialogue for Peace and Progress, celebrating Juneteenth. It's a wonderful day here in the City of Kyle, and we're really glad to see all of you. My name is Dr. Helen Lohman. I am a professor in the Political Science Department at Texas State, just down the road. Go Cats. Any alums here? Woo! Woo! All right. So I'm right at home. Okay, so what we're going to do first, we've got an incredible show planned for you here today. What we're going to do first is I'm going to ask our amazing panelists to introduce themselves. Then we're going to show a little video, and then we're going to get into some questions, okay? All right, so Fanny, can we start with you?
Yes, ma'am, no problem. Good morning to everyone. My name is Fanny Richardson, and I am a newbie here. I've been in Kyle for 2 years as of May. I work at Hill Country MHDD as a certified family partner. Thanks to my supervisor over there, she came and caused me to be here. And I just recently moved here from Alaska. I am originally from Texas. I graduated from Prairie View in the School of Nursing. And thank you guys for having us.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Leah Baxter. I am an educator for about 17 years now. And I am a PhD student. I'm studying organizational leadership with emphasis in conflict resolution. I am also a Kyle newbie, but I am a unicorn. I'm an Austinite. So yes, I am from Austin, and I am glad to be here. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Richard Dixon. I've been in Kyle for many years, since 2006. And so I guess I'll be the elder statesman of the group so far. I been here and developed a team through a good friend of mine's, Lee Spears. I am the president of the Kyle Youth Football and Cheer Association here in Kyle, established in 2008. And I also work at the University of Texas, Hook'em Horns, softball champions. Shameless plug.
Hello, I'm Nyla Kumari. I am runner-up as far as tenure goes. I have been out here since I started high school, so about 7 years. It's a little crazy to say. I currently go to UT, so Hook'em Horns, but I started at Texas State, so I eat 'em up cats too. Bring on my bases. I love being out here. I have a pretty strong base with all of my friends. We're all starting to get more so into the political aspect of things, just become a little bit more knowledgeable on what's going on around us, especially since we're the ones who are going to be coming up behind everyone. So I'm happy to be here.
All right, thank you so much. Yay, yeah, let's go. Thank you for volunteering to spend your Saturday morning here with us. So I'm going to play a short video just to give us a little bit of the history of Juneteenth.
My name is Marcia Chatlin. I'm a professor of history and African American studies at Georgetown University. I'm a historian of African American life and culture. Juneteenth is a commemoration holiday of June 19, 1865, when a group of African Americans in Galveston, Texas, received the news that they indeed were free. President Lincoln had signed the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, but news of the end of slavery in Texas had not traveled to this community until 1865. Since then, Juneteenth has been a day of commemoration of the struggle against slavery and a celebration of freedom. One of the biggest misconceptions about Juneteenth is that people often think that was the day that slavery ended in the United States. But in fact, the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery in the United States, was passed in the Senate on April 8, 1864, and the House on January 31st, 1865. Although Juneteenth celebrates the knowledge that slavery had ended, it's important to remember that the conditions that mirrored slavery, whether it was Jim Crow or the suppression of civil rights or continued struggles to fight racism, those continued long after the end of slavery. And so the Juneteenth holiday reminds us of where we've come, and it also inspires us to think about the places we want to go. As African Americans left the South to pursue opportunities throughout the 20th century in northern and western cities, the celebration of Juneteenth moved from being a Texas-based celebration to a national one, in which people gathered with families and friends and community to remember the incredible struggle of a people against slavery and to create new traditions that allowed them to reflect about the struggle for civil rights and the ongoing struggle against racism. Although slavery was abolished in 1865, the fight for civil rights has continued to the present day. So Juneteenth provides people with a sense of encouragement and inspiration to continue to fight on behalf of their community and their families for freedom. And it also is a holiday that, as it continues to become more and more popular, it allows people to look back at the past and encourages them to learn more about African American history. As more and more institutions recognize Juneteenth and work to commemorate the incredible legacy of slavery in the United States, I hope Juneteenth becomes a day where people commit not only to acts of justice in their local community, but to investigate history in a more deep and thoughtful way.
So now we all kind of understand the history of Juneteenth. So with that in mind, we're going to get started on some questions for our panelists. So the first question is, what does Juneteenth mean to you personally, and how did you first learn about it? I'm going to start with Fanny.
I actually grew up with Juneteenth. So I was born and raised here in Texas. My family definitely celebrated it, and my family still celebrates. As of next week, I will actually be going back to California to do the same type of speaking because my auntie moved from Texas to California in 1954 and brought it to California, and they're honoring her next week for that. So it's a great big celebration in my family, always.
Wonderful. Leah?
I think about as a child when my father, Lee Mercer, he used to coordinate he was a park ranger, and he used to coordinate the Juneteenth celebrations at Woolridge Park, downtown Austin. And I thought about how I was that kid that performed in the celebrations, but didn't know what it meant until now. And I think about Opal Lee and how she was 89 years old and how she walked from Texas to Washington, D.C. to make this a national holiday. So yes, it is personal, but I was always that child when I read in the history books. I wanted to see it tangible, and seeing us here, that's personal, and that means a lot. So Juneteenth is more than just a holiday or just with music. It's more of the transformational spirit that I have learned as a child.
Thank you. Richard?
For me, it's a great history lesson. I was raised in California, and when this was a thing in California, my brother would always drag me to the community festivals. And again, not knowing the exact reasons why, I just saw it as a great way to gather and have a party and see people for the first time, or reignite relationships. And then it wasn't until I moved here in 2006 that I learned the actual value of Juneteenth and what it really meant. And since then, I've been just pursuing, as it's stated in the film, doing the history, figuring out what's really it's about. And I'm very appreciative of the situation right now.
Nyla?
Yes, like the other panelists, I also grew up on Juneteenth. We lived in Georgia before we moved to Texas, so growing up in such a predominantly Black state, when there are points of Black joy, Black experience, just Black life, it will always be celebrated and heralded well, I'd say. And while I didn't fully understand what Juneteenth was when I was little, I just knew, okay, food, barbecue, everyone's out, there's music, it's fun, this is a great time. It's the summer. There is so much history behind, and there's so much of the history that still circles back to today. So I'm thankful to be older and be able to celebrate Juneteenth with more knowledge and nuance behind my actions and behind my reason to try and have other people celebrate too, beyond just let's have fun, let's get loose.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you. Next question. Can you share a memory or a story that captures the spirit of Juneteenth in your family or in your community? All right, Leah, I'll start with you.
All I can remember is the barbecue. I was like, Juneteenth, we have great barbecue. And it was actually a time where you have, we call it the old school, and then you have the new school, and then they come together, but they share stories. And I think that was the most meaningful thing to me as a kid. And as the panelist said, like when I was little, I didn't know, but it was just more of like the interactions and the word of mouth activities and all of that. So I can share just the laughter and all of the cultural foods, and that meant a lot to me.
Annie.
Listening to my panelists over here talk, it took me back to thinking about, I wonder if my uncles, my aunts, my mom, my dad, my cousins even worked on Juneteenth, because I can go back and remember as far back thinking of how they were killing the cows and the pigs and, doing the barbecuing and getting watermelons ready and all the cakes and pies and stuff like that. So it's a great memory for me. And to listen to her say about the old school and the new school, well, I'm the old school now. When we had the old school, I was the new school, and to still keep educating them on what's going on and the joy. And I mean, as I sit here right now, I get happy because I go to thinking back about those fun times that we had.
For me, it's going to be an experience to where it was learning from day one for me, because I'm a immigrant from Panama, and learning the cultures, my mom, my grandmother, my aunts raised me, and I never knew about Juneteenth as far as the slavery and what it really meant. Whenever we did anything was exactly as you said, another reason to go eat some good barbecue, and party and see my friends, but then my mom would tell me, hey, there's more to this than just the parties, and I didn't pay attention. I was naive, and now it comes way back to where now I know, when I'm looking at my name, my last name, and where I was born and my nationality and all that, it all ties in now. I kind of see now, looking at the history, where I'm from, where we've been, where I'm going. Now I have something to share with my kids. Hopefully they're listening.
Nyla?
Yes, I have a direct piggyback with coming from Black American parents and also immigrant parents. It really is a mixing pot, because you're able to acknowledge both the history that's allowed the immigrant parents to come here in the first place, because it was so many Black protests, so much Black life lost and given and dedicated to the fight of equality in general, that even allowed them to come in the first place. And knowing that on both sides, I have very, very raw freedom fighter family members that really didn't put up with any nonsense or racism then, and they still keep it pushing to today and taught me that. So knowing all of that and being able to look back on how joyous everything was, and how even with the stress of everything going on, because farmers making the sausage early in the morning, I don't like the sausage making process, I can acknowledge that. But everyone is coming together. They're putting in the work because this is a time where you're just able to be thankful and celebrate, other than Thanksgiving, of course, but in a different way. So I'd say all of my childhood memories especially were the times that I like to hold on to.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you for sharing those great stories. Okay, next question. How has Juneteenth evolved in different parts of the U.S., especially in recent history since it became a federal holiday?
I would say that now that I'm older, I see a lot more media talking about Juneteenth because I never saw any commercials or any Target ads or anything like that on the TV that would mention Juneteenth. It was more so if you knew, you knew, and then you would tell other people around you that there was something to know about, something to go to. And while I appreciate how well spread it is now, I feel as though there's not as much education backing the spread, especially since we're here in Texas. I don't see a lot of actual Texans, whether it's businesses or groups or anything, acknowledging Juneteenth with as much vigor as other places have when it started in Texas. Like Texas made, Texas born. We have such Texan pride, but for a Texan founded holiday, there isn't nearly as much. And of course, that's nuanced as to why. But my hope is that in the coming years, there is more of a Texan pride behind Juneteenth more than just an othered holiday.
I think that I've seen a fight. I mean, we got a holiday for Juneteenth now. I know that was a big push, fighting a good fight. And to have that now established, I think it's heightened the visibility of Juneteenth. But as my fellow panelist says, I don't think we're there yet to where this is really celebrated the way that it deserves to be. But I think that we're making strides. Just like myself, we're learning, we're growing, we're understanding what it meant, where it comes from, where the roots are. But I think that knowing that I'm in Texas and this is where it started, you know, it's refreshing to hear, but at the same time a little bit concerning because, as you said, no one's celebrating it in these areas, these parts. Maybe in other parts of Texas they are, but I haven't seen it to where it's like, wow, this is something very special.
I actually since I'm a PhD student, I'm so into articles now. So I looked into a lot of studies and I realized now Delaware is catching on to Juneteenth. And the word that strikes me is awareness. Where we are right now. Look at all of us. We're sitting down, we're having these conversations. And I really feel like us as humans, we need to be comfortable in being uncomfortable. So having those conversations as well. So I think it's more of the evolution starts when we are aware. When we know better, we do better. I actually teach in Round Rock and didn't realize how prominent my family, the Mercer family, was, where they were the first, some of them were the first Black students at Hopewell School. And I actually had a training in that building and didn't know until I saw a picture. Now I know. Now I have this knowledge. So what am I going to do with that knowledge now, right? So spreading that awareness. So I feel like if we spread that awareness, no matter what race, no matter what nationality we are, and respect it, I believe now then we can start chipping off that block with celebrating, and it broadens. And that's how I feel about that with the evolution.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to jump off on what you said about the fact of spreading the word. I still see it. I've always seen it. I've always been a part of it. And I think it's where you go to be able to get that information and that understanding. And if I don't give it to people, nobody else is going to know. What I've seen is that our older people have died off. Our elders have died off. So the younger generation is not carrying it on as they did. So what we have to do is we're going to have to stand up and speak up and educate people on Juneteenth. I see it all over. I lived in Alaska for 10 years here recently, and it's celebrated there. But then when I went, I was able to bring Texas Juneteenth to them because they were not celebrating it the way that we celebrate here in Texas. So it just depends on where you are and what you know about it to educate everybody else on it. So it hasn't died, not by me it has.
All right, wonderful. So guess what? Now you guys get to participate. So everybody bring out your phones. And the question is, how can individuals and institutions honor Juneteenth beyond symbolic gestures? If you go up here to minty.com and use this code and type in your answer, then that would be wonderful. And in the meantime, while our audience is doing that, I'm going to ask you guys another question, okay? We're going to keep moving.
Let's go.
All right. What role does storytelling, music, food, you guys have already talked about the barbecue, guess where I'm going to eat after this, and celebration play in Juneteenth traditions?
Wow. There you go.
I'll start with Leah this time.
I feel like when we talked about with the food, when we talked about with the music, keep passing it down. Like, for instance, my mom used to make a mean Frito pie and a mean dressing. And so if I don't learn how to cook that and I'm not passing it down, then it's going to be dead. You understand what I'm saying? So I believe that as long as we keep those symbolic gestures, but keep passing it down, but still have it be relatable to the young people now. Right? So to make sure that it's integrated with them, that's how I feel like those gestures will live on.
I agree with that,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Fanny.
I agree with us passing it down because if we don't pass it down, we lose it. So therefore, each family, and like you mentioned about the cooking, the storytelling, what were the things that, again, our elders are gone, so I am now that elder. And so this elder has to keep passing it on down to the other generations and making sure that they know the story, the foods, the fun, all of what went behind it, but also the sadness that happened in the journey as well.
Leah?
And then also, the young people will have to listen, be able to listen too. Because sometimes, like I know when I was younger, and my grandma would tell me something, and then my other cousins were like, I don't want to hear this. And it's more of being open to listening to the old school. And I feel like that's so powerful as well.
All right, now I got to get back on you with that one. When we say the young people need to listen, we as elders need to teach them how to listen. Because, sometimes we talk at them, we don't talk to them. So therefore, they won't listen if we are not at their level to be able to give them that understanding to make them want to listen.
Yeah.
Because I can say I have 5 children, 9 grandchildren, 9 great-grandchildren. And therefore, they listen to when I'm talking because I'm not talking at them, I'm talking to them. So
So Nyla, as the youngest person on the piano, tell us what you think about that.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree on both sides. I'm 20 and I had the privilege of being able to have my great-grandma, great-grandpa. I think the oldest that we got to was great-great before started going down the line. But I remember being able to sit on my grandma's lap, sit on my great-grandma's lap especially, and hear the stories. They were at the Montgomery bus boycotts and riots and marching on Washington. My auntie, great auntie, of course it's just auntie, but great auntie Kathy, she has her photo frame where she's walking next to Martin Luther King Jr., where her leg is still messed up now from being sprayed with the fire hoses from the fire trucks. So all of the history that I was taught and all of the pride that comes with being Black in America behind that, it was directly instilled in me. And I agree. We have to be able to listen to the old heads when they're talking if we're going to be able to feel that within ourselves, because it's disingenuous when you're speaking to someone and you're just regurgitating the facts that you've learned along the line. Of course, knowledge is everything, but speaking from personal experience and having that direct tie is going to push you to both want to learn more about the facts behind the history that has already been shared with you, but also disseminate that within those around you so that they find an awareness or they can find a connection to it. Because, like I said, knowing something isn't as much as understanding and feeling a connection to the knowledge and understanding its importance beyond just the fact that it happened.
Do
Do you want to add, Richard?
To be honest, I'm like, a lot of thoughts are going through my head.
Yeah.
When I listen to the panelists talk about these things and how it affects where I'm at with my kids, and being, in the position that I'm in and being able to share this. But I do know from my coaching experience with the young youths out here, it is about getting on their level, but still showing the traditions and leading the way with respect, and communication is going to be key, and understanding, letting them have their voice, and then letting them see what their decisions, what their choices, what their thoughts transpire to compared to what happened in the past. Because we've come a long way, still a long way to go. And, now, they put a title on the different years and all that other stuff. And the kids these days, they're electronic. I mean, my granddaughter has a mini iPad. So communicating with her, I need to get on that level so she understands what's really going on, get the history. Now the history's out there. I mean, it's really out there if you really look and Google search or whatever you want to do. But at the same time, you got to put some personal touches into it and have that sit down. We don't sit down anymore at the table or on a couch. We doing this with our phones. And I think that we need to do more of that in order to get that thoughts and get these traditions. And that's in every aspect of being an American. We need to do that for everything that's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Fanny?
And I have to still go, I'm always kind of the controversial type of person. Say, I'm not arguing with you or anything like that, but I also have to say, we talk it, but we don't do it. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to start doing it. Like we say, we've got these kids now with all these gadgets and stuff around, but we don't talk. We get to the kitchen table, and half the time the families don't even sit at the kitchen table together anymore. And if they are, they're with those gadgets. My son came in from Houston just to hear this. So it's like, put your money where your mouth is. So you have to show them to be able to, them catch it and pick it up.
Yep.
So.
Wonderful. So I'm going to ask the panelists to turn around and look at the answers to the question. So we have some great answers here, a lot about education. Talk about it, make sure new generations understand, ensure the history of the holiday is part of curriculum in schools. Let me move down. We've got a lot of answers here. Intentionally give voice to the African American community. Talk about it like it's actually part of history, like July 4th. Post about it on LinkedIn or anywhere else on social media. Make sure the history isn't legislated out of existence. Educate yourself. So lots of education and awareness and information. Educate the community. Make sure our churches recognize it and give voice and empower. So do you guys have anything to add here or any thoughts on this? Okay, Richard?
The one thing that I think handicaps this day is school's out, right? And trying to get this going forward, it needs to be intentional in the school levels in our schools, and so that way they understand what's happening now. School's out, the teaching is done. I want to go to the beach, the party, vacation, all this other stuff. Juneteenth comes up. Hey, it's another party, but we're not teaching, hey, this is coming up. So it's kind of like we're stuck between a rock and a hard place because school's out, so we don't have that opportunity to teach it. We don't have that opportunity to learn about it. So it's put on parents, grandparents in your home. And so that kind of puts a little bit of a handicap behind it, in my opinion. But I think that there is a solution if we put our heads together like we're doing here and put it out there and do it. Make it something, maybe it's towards the end of the year, something to where we put some emphasis on it, so that, and look at what's going on and how it affects how we're going to move forward.
Yeah.
And our curriculum and stuff like that in school.
Fanny.
Again, I'm going to go off of what Richard just said. And we look at it, the schools are not open right now to teach them. We shouldn't have to wait for the schools to be open to teach them. That's something that we should be doing all the time. We don't just wait for Christmas right now because we know Christmas is coming. We know that day is there. So to start educating our kids, educating the community, talking about it, it's not just a one-day thing. It's a lifetime thing. It's an all-time thing. So keeping it abreast at all times that, Juneteenth and what it's about. We talk about the 4th of July. Everybody knows about the 4th of July. Why not know about Juneteenth?
Yeah. Leah?
I appreciate the comments with education, because as an educator and a former assistant principal, I think about, and this is fast forward to the Black History Month and African American History Month. And I know with my teachers, I like to implement the cross-curricular. So since I've been a fine arts educator, I'm like, okay, with the history, I have my students research certain eras, whether it's the Harlem Renaissance or the Great Depression, and then let's get deeper. So now let's get into the music, let's get into the pivotal figures, and let's tie it into our history teachers, and then let's tie it into our science teachers. And so I've led the professional development with integrating that. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing because that brings everyone together, not just core teachers. It brings the fine arts, it brings the district together. And then I go even further and I have an extra credit assignment with my students to go talk to your abuela, go talk to your grandparents, and then also see if there's certain foods that they would like to cook, And I do this not for Black History. I do it for the Hispanic Heritage Month as well, and also the Asian Heritage Month. So making them aware. And sometimes, there's parents that give me feedback and oh my God, my child actually talked to me, and that's a beautiful thing. So I love starting that and having those conversations.
Yeah.
To start, I agree that there is a very big disconnect between those who already know about the holiday, already celebrate, already see its importance, and those who are unaware or don't acknowledge the extent, because it's just a lack of the spread of education, but it becomes a burden to those who know if they don't enjoy always teaching and teaching and teaching and teaching, because of course it does become tiresome after a point. And it's why is that my role? Why can't someone else take the initiative? Why aren't our institutions taking that initiative? I remember my 7th grade social studies class was just Texas history, but I can only recall one segment out of one class period, and I have a very, very good memory, unfortunately. I remember most things, even to the desk I was sitting at. But it's one part of an article that is discussing Juneteenth compared to a whole entire year of discussing Texas history. And of course, Texan history is vast, it's expansive, but if we are discussing slavery and we're discussing the situation surrounding and we're discussing Jim Crow, there shouldn't be so much rephrase. For as much focus as there is on the atrocities that Black Americans have faced throughout history, there should be focus on Black joy, Black growth, Black experience. And even when discussing Black atrocities, you don't go to the extent that the people of the time did, how bad things actually were. And so because you don't realize how bad things were, you don't realize how comparably amazing those bits of progress were. So it's not going to be as well celebrated because, of course, you're living as a Black person. You're going to see, oh, I know that I saw all the lynchings. I saw all of this. I had my grandma's house burned down by the Klan. So it's like, of course, I'm going to take this opportunity to just be happy to be Black, and I'm going to herald it. But people who aren't sharing that experience and they're not learning about it directly, they're just unaware. And then it's just you're fighting a losing battle where I'm trying to convince you to care when the concern should have been taught to you along the way. It shouldn't just be thrown in your face randomly, or after a movement. Now it has importance when this holiday has been here almost 200 years. It's been acknowledged and a part of communities for almost 200 years. So I think as a baseline, schools can most definitely do better, because I remember the cannibalistic Native American tribes, and other people remember those tribes, but they don't even remember the Juneteenth holiday that started here in Texas. But we are so very, very proud to be Texans.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Well, let's go on to the next question. All right. In what ways can Juneteenth serve as a starting point for conversations about racial justice and equity today?
Well, the times that we're in right now are obviously dictating that as we speak, as we're here, sitting down here. Times of awareness and communication, understanding. We can't take those lightly. We have to participate in it. We got to be actively into it, and embrace it. Because if we don't, then we're going to get lost. And if we don't, then we're not going to be able to make the decisions that are needed. Education for our youth on understanding their stance in the political realm of society, of our society, understanding where we need to be at social justice. I mean, they're going to be the ones. My granddaughter and my kids are the ones going to probably be in a position to make some decisions at some point, sometime. You have to go out there and vote. Understanding what that vote means has to be educated, because everyone thinks it's just a hash mark. Hey, I voted. All right, well, what does that vote really mean? Are we educating that? Are we doing the right things as far as the why? Why are we doing the things why are we in the state that we are now? And what are we going to do to fix it? And it's going to take our community. It's going to take, one by one, a household to get together and talk about these things. But again, it takes action. And right now, action is, it's either good or it's bad, depending on where you're sitting. And that action is never about trying to educate. It's always trying to make a point, and instead of education. And that's the part where we need to fix.
Yeah, absolutely. Nyla?
Will you repeat the question?
Absolutely.
Well.
You were ready to answer it, though.
And I was just
love that.
Yes.
Okay. So the question is, in what ways can Juneteenth serve as a starting point for conversations about racial justice and equity today?
Okay, it was the starting point part. I think it's a great starting point because it's opening the doors, and it's something that it's not very heavy. It's very palatable. It's not hard to digest. It's a celebration, so you're mixing history with fun. And I feel as though if someone is going to learn it, hitting them in the head with a book compared to serving them a plate, you can see how polar those are and how much more receptive someone is going to be when they are in a more comfortable environment. But as said before, we have to find comfort in discomfort to get to the places that we need to be, because history isn't comfortable. Life in America as a Black person is not always comfortable. Life as a person in America, just period, isn't always comfortable. And to start bridging the gaps between all of the issues that we have and the reality that we want to reach, we are going to have to start somewhere. And if it is going to be a celebration where we're dipping our toes in the pool of knowledge and history, then I feel like that's the best way to start, just in general.
Leah?
I think it's an awesome starting point, especially with the Black businesses increasing and having folks support as well. Because I'm really big on that. I look on Instagram all the time and I'm like, ooh, this is a new restaurant, or ooh, this is a new museum that opened up. And so with that, it's just more of the support. And that's how I feel about it elevating with Juneteenth.
Yeah, great. All right, next question. What challenges do you see in educating the broader public about Juneteenth and its relevance?
Wow.
That's deep.
Nyla?
I believe the difficulty comes in the dismissal of the Black plight, for lack of a better way to put it. Slavery was so long ago, who cares? Slavery wasn't that long ago. There were cases of slavery under the name of peonage up until 1970. There were Mississippi sharecroppers and farmers who had no idea about what was going on in the rest of the modern world. And even with the distance between mass slavery and today, all of the history in between, from the Jim Crow to the common day lynchings, Lynchburg, Virginia, or Lynchburg, just a whole entire city where lynching was so common, to where it created a whole entire word for it. All of these things are stemming from, and it's just, when you don't understand how serious a situation was, you cannot acknowledge how amazing it is to have that breath from the weight of it all. We recognize the 4th of July because it was a very difficult time to get to independence. You acknowledge the lives that were lost, the amount of drive and determination to get to that point. We acknowledge Cinco de Mayo because of the progress it pushed towards Mexican independence. We acknowledge these days because you are giving appreciation to those who put their lives on the line or lost them to get to that point, and also all the history that has passed between then and now. And because of the ignorance surrounding all of that just as a whole, it's dismissive. And because our institutions themselves do not actually give much weight to the holiday itself like they do the 4th of July. We see the sales, we see the pinwheels, we see all of this. And of course, there are other holidays too, Memorial Day, Labor Day, and Valentine's Day even. Of course, all of these are commercialized. And without the commercialization widespread mainstream, there's not enough credence put towards. So I like that you mentioned the Black businesses, because ultimately everything is commercial. Everything has a dollar sign behind it, even the holidays mentioned before. So having a platform where people are incentivized to look at the things that they're spending their money on, try and turn it towards a Black business, or look at the history of the Black businesses, look at these different avenues, look at the brands that are in Target, even when they have their little sections there, it's something. And of course, it's not everything that could be done, but it's a step in the right direction. But I feel like until it's a little less performative, until it's a little less just a flag or just a shirt that says Happy Juneteenth, it's something more weighted than just basically a little placeholder or a token, it's not going to spread well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Richard, did you have something?
I do, and what's in my head right now is more of the, you said commercialism, the commercials, advertising, and all that. It's not the value on this day of June 19th should be up there as anything else in American history, if not right there next with, Independence Day, because it's what our history is. It's literally the when you put 10 toes down, a lot of people put 10 toes down to fight, just like we did on July 4th. It has to be something to where we need to have it. The propaganda, everything needs to be valued just as high as far as Juneteenth go, because it hits hard when it's just not left. It's just left there in the dust. And then you have, Black cultures trying to figure out where do we fit in? It's about the dollar. I mean, it's something that I teach students and people who want to sit down and listen to me. You want to know what's really going on in our country? Follow the money. You know, money is dragging everything. It's leading everything. And as soon as we take that out of the equation and let it be about us, the American people, then we can probably start moving towards making sure that this day of Juneteenth is valued as high as anything else that's happening. Because I feel that we're missing the boat on it, to be honest. It's you know, the more and more I'm learning, the more and more I'm just like, wow, this can't just be a day where we get to see pictures and sit down. It has to be, you know, I walk into a Walmart, I should see Juneteenth everywhere, you know, because it's a value to our United States and not just to Texas anymore because of what it meant, where we went, and what people had to go through to struggle to get to where we're at right now. And the struggle's still real, but at the same time, it's going to take, unfortunately, it's going to take that good fight. And we just got to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Not give up.
Fanny, I thought I saw you grab for your paddle, so go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. I would like to say I agree with everything that was said, but we can put it on everybody else except ourselves. And we've got to step up as a community, as a culture of our own, as a race, to be able to put it out there. If we don't step forward, nobody else is going to step forward. So we don't want to point the finger that it's not on the news media. We've got African Americans that are in the media. Why are we not talking to them just as well? So we want everybody else to give it to us, but we got to go out there and give it ourselves. We've got to speak up. We've got to walk those streets. We've got to put those clothings in Walmart. We've got owners, black business owners that have clothing companies. Why are we not putting those in those companies as well? You know, we have to speak up as well for ourselves and not wait for somebody else to speak up for us.
Yeah. Leah?
I agree with you, Miss Fanny. I'm a proud member of the Sigma Gamma Rho sorority, and we always talk about unpacking the negative stereotypes, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's so many events that go on centered around Juneteenth right now, and I would hear my sorors say, I don't want to go here because of this, or I'm not going, but this is our people.
That's right.
Why not, right? And so that's how I feel about that when Miss Fanny just said it starts with us, pointing the finger at us, and taking a stand. Yes, I'm going here because I want to be with my people. I want to be with the community. So thank you for that.
No problem. And I have to say something because I'm going to have to give an accolade to a person that if it wasn't for that person and I myself would not have been here, and that's Miss Michelle, who was my director that hired me when I moved here from Alaska. I got tired, just as you were saying, that why it's me always to do. But you know what, if I don't stop being tired and start standing out, then we'll never get anything done. And it was up to her that told me to come and do this. So, you know.
Well, kudos to her. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm out this year.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. Well, audience, are you ready for your next question?
Yeah.
Get your phones out. So what messages do you hope young people take away from Juneteenth celebrations? And I'm going to move on to another question for you while they're doing their homework over there. All right. How should schools and educators incorporate Juneteenth into their curricula in meaningful ways?
Well, like I just piggybacked on my own self in regards to just using different events and relating it to them, having them research and allowing student-centered projects, because with my students, they feel most confident and so proud when they do their own work. And so, like my fellow panelists said, also not talking to them, but collaborating with them as well. So I feel like that opens the conversation when folks are comfortable, when the young people are comfortable with you. Because I know for me, I'm a proud millennial, And I know for me, when someone is collaborating with me and not just, nagging at me, I feel more comfortable and I'm able to open up more with the great spirit. So,
absolutely.
Yes, and for me, it's a little bit of history. Where I was going to school on the Monterey Peninsula in California, it ties right back into, school. I mean, I'm not going to say that I know why, but I was privileged to be living in that area, going to that school district, I think at the right time. So I apologize for my naiveness, because those educators, those schools from elementary through high school, they took the pride of showing culture. We had to have cultural meals potlucks, where we all had to bring a plate or help make a plate and talk about that plate and talk about what that means, no matter who you were. And there was a Army base that's next to the high school that I went to, and we brought, we had dishes from every single culture. So I was not privy to the discrimination per se on that front, because there's Japanese, Korean, Samoan, Panamanian, myself, Hispanics all over the world, and so my eyes were kind of blind to what was going on in society, because our teachers, our educators that I was raised with and around did a fantastic job of letting me know there's more than just you. And even within you, there's more that you don't even know, about you and your place and how you're going to be educated. I mean, geography, I drive around with my wife and she doesn't like driving certain places. And when she gets to certain, she gets all antsy. And me, I know how to get there. I'll go here, this way, go that way, go that way, go that way. And it goes back. I say all that to let it tie back to the education. In school, I had to learn how to sew. I had to learn how to do economics. I had to learn how to balance a checkbook. I had to learn how to drive in high school. In high school, you had to graduate with that, So culturally and economically, all those things I got through school, and they're all been taken away. They've all been taken away from educating these kids. Instead, it's about, what do I need to do to pass a STAR? Because that's how our schools can get more money. And the STAR is not tying into what's going on in society. It's not going on to getting these kids an opportunity to be successful. It's all about fitting a certain standard, right? And we're not built that way. We are not built that way. So again, I apologize for my naiveness. I'm gonna go ahead and give a shout out to my teachers in the Monterey Peninsula School District, because I listened, I learned, and I grew. And so I thank them for that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Leah?
I also would like to add kudos to whoever commented, and it was something about the religion and the churches. I also believe that with education, it comes from the churches, if you do go to church. And I know that like with Vacation Bible School, and, they educated us about the culture, and I learned how to speak in front of people and different history in the churches as well. So then I brought that to school when I was a kid, because when the teacher asked who would like to read, because I already knew how to read Bible verses. So that too. So it's also how you were raised at home, and that church aspect, that's just for me. And then that translated to education and how I present myself as well. And then with the historical context.
Yeah.
And I'm going to back out on that one as well. I agree with what you're saying about the churches. I agree with what you guys are saying about education and the schools and stuff like that. But again, it takes us to be able to go into those. I worked in the school system for 30 years, retired from the school system. But one of the things that I did was to make sure that those kids were educated from what I knew. So therefore, we've got to go into the schools and start talking to them. I'm not in the school system anymore. I'm in a mental health clinic. but I can still talk to those kids and those families when they come through into my office. So we're gonna, and the church is the same thing. You mentioned Vacation Bible School. I don't even know if they even have them anymore. So we've lost a lot of what we had, and now we need to get it back so that we can educate everybody on what's going on.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you guys to turn around and look at the answers we've got here from the question about what do you hope young people take away. So a lot of it is reflecting on what you guys said. It's the onus is on the community, that history is important, history matters, awareness of injustices of our past and resilience of the African American community, recognition of what Juneteenth means to us, not just a celebration, traditions and joy of the day. So a lot about sort of the equal celebration, but also knowing the history. So do you guys want to add to that, or do you have any comments about any of this? Nyla?
Yes, I have comments as far as that, as well as the former question. To start with what we can do in schools, I agree and acknowledge that, of course, we have to use our voices to spread the information, but we are individuals, and if it's institutions that we're fighting against, as we've done time and time again, it takes the masses to make a change, not just one person, one voice. And if you can only affect change within your own classroom compared to districts affecting change across the districts within entire schools, it becomes a scale. Okay, yes, I understand that I myself, as a speaking point, I need to do more, but so do they, because they have more power, they have more influence. And because of that, the weight and the fingers pointed at them doubles, quadruples, it's exponential, because y'all have the ability to reach people that I couldn't. Of course, me speaking as a Black person, I'm already going to be biased. I'm already going to have a little bit of, it's going to be dismissed just a little bit more than from a counterpart, because I'm speaking from a more emotionally nuanced standpoint. I've experienced this. I understand. I want the change because it's directly affecting me. If it's not directly affecting someone else, then, as said before, they're not always as inclined to hear that information or to see the importance of the information in and of itself. So we need the school districts, we need governments, we need businesses to be the helping hand in that, not just the celebratory 5 days or a few moments where it's just random articles that say, happy you're Black, and then you carry on as if nothing had happened the day before. It should be continuous throughout the year. This happened, this happened. I remember in 4th grade, I lived in San Antonio, and my teacher, she was a Black teacher, and she had us all do a project on items that we had no idea were invented by Black people, and mine was the ice cream scoop. I never would have guessed that the ice cream scoop was invented by someone Black. I wasn't even thinking about it, but it's starting points of conversation, ideas, the stoplights that we use every single day, and seeing that the contributions, in spite of all of the weight of all of the heinous treatment that has been pushed on the Black community, that alone would incentivize people to say, okay, this day where we're just acknowledging the fact that people found out that they were free, that alone, y'all have been free for how long and you had no idea? Y'all were just wool over the eyes because of the society that we were living in then, and that continues on in various ways. So as far as what young people are taking away, I'm glad everyone understands we need to be educated. Ignorance is blissful for those who don't have to deal with the weight of ignorance. But I appreciate that everyone also understands that it's a time to celebrate too, because everything needs balance. For as much as we suffer, we need to shine.
Thanks, Doc.
Any other comments?
As far as the questions that were answered, the answers to the question here, the torch, I think it was brought up several times already. We got to continue to push that torch, leave it lit, and educate and it has to be not just putting it all on education as far as schools. It needs to be in our communities. The one reason why the Kyle Invaders Youth Football Organization has been established since 2008 is because of the founder. He wanted to make football a good bridge for these young kids to play a sport. It's expensive, and we do our best to try to keep the prices low, but more importantly, these kids come out and they have fun. And guess who they're having fun with? It doesn't matter. We accept everybody. It's not an athlete or a special person that we're looking for. You come, you sign up, we take you, we train you, we coach you, and at the end of the day, I can walk into HEB, which I don't do anymore because when my wife tells me to go get eggs and milk, it's 3 hours later because my friends and people that I've known in this community saying hi, parents coming up to me and saying thank you. That's that education piece. And, when I say, why thank you? Well, you changed my son. You changed my child. And in some cases, we changed my young queen. We've had girls play in our organization, and they have a different perspective of being part of this, whatever it is, and having a voice, speaking, and expressing themselves. My kids, they express themselves, whether I like it or not, because that's the way I told them. I can't do nothing for you if I don't know what you're thinking. And so they speak, and sometimes I may not like what they say, but you know what? I allowed it. And so now we can have a conversation, we can have a dialogue, because at the end of the day, they know I love them. And as it was said here, I don't think we can be comfortable wanting a yes person around you. You want to get people who are going to challenge you. You want to get people who are going to express how they feel. So that way you know what you're dealing with, what you're up against, and develop a plan. So yes, this is what needs to happen with our youth. We need to give them that platform, and we need to get a hold of people who have a bigger platform than what we have to help us on this journey, and advocate for what's coming, because one way or the other, it's coming, and if you want it to turn the right way, we need to get involved.
Leah?
I would also like to see how, and this just popped up, how the kids, how they feel about Juneteenth, like having an actual panel and conversation to see how, the teenagers, how they perceive Juneteenth. Because we're coming with this wealth of knowledge. We're coming from education and all of that. But what about our babies? What do they think about that? So I think that would be awesome to celebrate and acknowledge as well.
Exactly, I agree.
Absolutely. Do you have a comment, Fanny?
Excuse me?
I
agree with everybody what they were saying and
Okay.
stuff like that, and I agree with what was going on here. Yeah.
Great,
and I
great.
definitely agree about the kids. If we don't bring them in, we still are losing out.
Amen.
So finding out what it is that they know, and then we can help them to grow with it as well.
Yeah. So the final question is, what would a truly liberated and inclusive society look like, and how does Juneteenth help us imagine or move toward that vision? Leah?
Well, like I mentioned before, having a panel with folks of all ages, I think that would be interesting and allow others their voices to be heard. I think that would be awesome just to see what's in their head. And my final remarks, I just thank everyone. I thank Ms. Rachel for emailing me back, and this makes my heart happy, like just having this conversation. And my husband always says, Leah, you cannot change the whole world, but if one person is listening to you, you have done your diligence. So
I'd like to say I agree with you with having a panel of all different ages and stuff here, as well as to make sure there's some more advertisement out there, because if it hadn't have been, again, for Michelle, I wouldn't have known about this. So making sure that the community is aware of what's going on out there and stuff. And I would like to say thank you, everybody that came, and I just really appreciate it. Love it.
I get to go. For me, a truly liberated society would extend beyond America, and it would be everyone being genuinely educated and caring about not just someone who's an extension of themselves, an extension of their community, but people who they have absolutely nothing in common with beyond just the fact that everyone's human sitting at the table. Because in order for us to really celebrate the things that divide us, we have to acknowledge the fact that there isn't an issue with being divisive. There isn't an issue with everyone not being the same. It's okay, and if anything, it's something to celebrate. But like I said before, everything has to have its start. Everything counts as a stepping stone. And while I've always been very, like you had mentioned with the one person changing the world, but you can't change the world. My thing was always, why not? I'm gonna try my darndest, because I have a mouth, I'm gonna use it. I have whatever resources I have at my disposal, and I'm sure more can be found. I've always been a very headstrong type of person, not always in my favor, but at least on issues like this, I can say it's in someone's favor, because change is not linear, but it can be streamlined and it can be helped by community, and it needs people behind it in order for it to be seen. We've seen it all throughout history, whether we're discussing issues of race or progress, sex, anything. Everyone has to start somewhere. Everyone has to be willing to put in the time, the effort, the blood, the sweat, the tears to see change, and not be, for lack of any better word, selfish in how you're seeing the change come. Because just because it doesn't directly benefit you doesn't mean that because it's benefiting someone else, it's to your own detriment. Everyone can eat at the table. Everyone deserves a seat at the table to begin with. So I also appreciate all of y'all being out here and listening to us. And I appreciate y'all for having this event in the first place. So I'm excited to see what comes as the years continue.
Richard?
I think that the panelist here has really said everything that needs to happen. And literally, it has to be not necessarily worrying about who you are or what culture you belong to or where you fit in, but just get involved.
Exactly.
You know, this is our community. This day is a very special day for a certain group in our community, the people in this community. And I think that if we celebrate everything as a group, it's going to get us there, put us on the table. I mean, I think the youth needs to be there, you know, sit down and have a talk. Maybe it's a potluck. We sit down and we talk, not necessarily for anything, but just to talk, to see what the temperature is in our community and in our society, and then we can start to evolve and build it bigger and better. But I think everyone needs to be involved and have a voice and not feel like you're being judged just because you feel a certain way or you say certain things, and it might be uncomfortable. We have to be comfortable being uncomfortable to be able to attack and fix it. But we need to get everybody here to sit down and talk, whichever platform. I mean, I know a lot of us have kids and you're doing different things and kids come over and all that other stuff. Bring the parents over with you. You know, sit down and talk. Have those dialogues. And then it doesn't necessarily have to be about Juneteenth or this culture or that, but just what's going on in our community. How can we make it better? You know, be open to that because we need to do better. And I'm up for that challenge. I think I can say this. This is my second time being part of this. And it's always an honor, especially to live here. As I tell people who talk to me, I'm not a door knocker, but I think that in my growth, I've learned to use my voice, but I don't overuse it because people have a voice also. I do a lot of listening, and I listen to what's going on. And I've learned through my education that if you want to communicate, you got to listen. You got to listen, or if you want to communicate. Talking isn't always the right way. You got to listen so you can take your notes, see what's going on, feel the temperature, and then figure out a way to attack and get it right. No one here is about losing, but it's always going to be about winning, but we got to do it the right way and have that good fight. So I really appreciate it, everyone that's here, that's come out here, meeting these panelists. It's a small world. Learned a lot of things from the ladies that are up here that were actually, literally graduated from Sonoma State University in California, and having a conversation, I found out that one of the panelists actually was in the same area I was in. So small world. It's a wonderful thing. So we need to just bring it together. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you. So I just want to say, personally, it has been an incredible honor to share this stage with you. I have learned so much today. And I also want to say thank you to the City of Kyle for hosting this, planning this. This takes work to put something like this together. So thank you so much. And so can we please say thank you to the panelists?
On behalf of the City Council, I want to say thank you very much for participating, and to the audience for participating. We appreciate your being here. We have elected officials here. We have members of the community. And I want to invite everyone who is here who would like to really make an impact on the city, that your voice is able to be heard in many, many ways. I would encourage you to sign up for committees with the city. We have openings, I think, on maybe all but one of our committees. You can see those online, and if there's a committee you're interested in that's full, you can still sign up, and we will be contacting you when there's an opening. And also, I really want to encourage people to run for city council. The city council turns over on a regular basis. We have three at-large, and three districts that are represented. And every election, there is one of each up. Please run. I've lived in the city of Kyle now for a little over 10 years. We have had only one African-American council member during the whole time that I have been here. And we very rarely have the white hairs like me. Our voices all need to be heard, and that is absolutely one of the most wonderful ways you can do that. So on behalf of the city and all of the residents, thank you for being here and showing your truth. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.